All right, friends, welcome back. It's another Fake Nerd Book Club. I'm joined by my friends Ryan Eliopoulos.
I'm getting wasted for the last time.
Ben Magnet.
I would say if you have these books on your shelf, it's not a waste of space.
Oh, that's better.
And Brandon T. McClure. And I just want to say, I love you guys.
Oh,
I
love you
so
too.
sappy.
And we're here to talk the last 5 issues, the final volume of Wasted Space, which was our inaugural spin-off full proper, we're going to do whole runs of series book club show, which we did technically
it was
stop
a pandemic
on at the time because they weren't all out.
That's true.
It just took us a while to circle back around, but here we are. This is written by Michael Moreci and illustrated by Hayden Sherman, as it always has been, and colored by Jason Wordie.
Letters are important. Letter by Jim Campbell.
Yes. And it's an emotional moment, I think, for us all to say goodbye to a really great indie story that all really enjoyed. I've certainly enjoyed reading it. But I think more than anything, I've enjoyed having the conversations with you all going through it together. And here we are at the end of it all. How do you guys feel about the end of Wasted Space?
I'm going to miss these dirt bags.
It's always independent books are great. They're just great because they allow things to. They just don't have the same restrictions that the big two DC and Marvel have, and so you get a complete story. And the thing with complete stories is that eventually they end, and endings are hard.
Mm-hmm.
Endings are notoriously very difficult, especially if you're doing a series. And it can be difficult to satisfyingly end something because, either you don't really have a clear idea of what that ending is going to be, or the audience has a very clear idea of what the ending they want to have happen. And I'm really happy to say, at least in my opinion, I think Wasted Space nailed it.
Nice. Ben?
Sorry, I was about to sneeze. I don't remember where I heard this quote before, and I might be butchering it a little bit, but to paraphrase, the mark of a truly great sci-fi story involves the human condition. It makes it seem that, yes, you're in this fantastical place or you're doing this fantastical things, but it all drives down to, like, especially you being a person or your own ideals or philosophy or something along those lines. This truly is a great sci-fi story. In these last 5 issues, issue 25 especially hits home so hard and so well. And Brandon is 100% correct. Endings are hard. How many times have we talked about, oh, the ride was great, but the ending sucked? Or
you should ask your best friend Stephen King.
Yeah,
he's not the best at them.
Or I don't know. David and DB, those two guys, endings are.
Game of Thrones.
They can blame George for that one, but it's not his fault.
Yeah, I'm still bitter about that, but that's beside the point. The point.
Did you see? I'm sorry to put us off this tangent, but did you see the Make Some Noise episode with Brennan is doing an improv interview with Izzy, and the improv prompt is a medical like a doctor interview that has the same progression of quality as Game of Thrones, and it's just like, and then you did all these great things, and then it just says kicking dogs.
Kicking dogs.
I truly hope one day, Brandon, that you go through all of Game of Thrones and kind of enjoy the ride. And like, you do it not because like you've heard it's a great show or anything. You figure that out. You're like, yeah, of course they were right. Like, wonderful performances, but you're a real sicko and you want to get like, how did it get so bad? Like, what is this? Is it really what they say? And I want you to sit there and I want you to watch it and go, holy shit.
It's like a modern masterpiece of awful.
I can't explain to you how truly awful it is.
Yeah.
without you having the context of having watched everything that they fumbled the ball on.
If a show
got there,
if a show had such high quality that like lowered to the depths so bad as Game of Thrones, but that is a story for another time.
I should not have mentioned those two. Wow, what kind of
You can't say those names around this house, man. It happens.
No, I can't. I'm not even in your house.
It's not okay here.
I mean, but I love that show. House of Dragons, great. But that's besides the point. The point is, Wasted Space was freaking amazing, and it gives you an ending that, but not to spoil or not. Well, we're gonna spoil the ending, but not to like dive into the ending immediately. In the broadest sense, it gives you an ending that you know the main characters deserve, and you're happy about it. It's not exactly a happy ending, but it's one you're content with. And to me, I feel that when you're content with an ending and you just relax and go, yeah, that was good. Moreci did his job. Yeah. It's like, and we're golden.
Yeah. And obviously, this is a comic book, so it's not just the writer. Hayden Sherman has been killing this entire book. But there's something that he's bringing to this final volume, along with the colorists and the inkers and the letters. But like, this last volume is so much bigger. There's so much more inventive paneling, and specifically like that first issue. There are so many beautiful like landscapes and panel placement that I'm like, yo, this is like one of the greatest like comics I've ever read in terms of the art. Yeah, like the Monster Planet. Like there are so many incredible examples of giant splash pages that like they showed up like enough in the previous volumes. Like I'm not shaming the last volumes or anything, but like this last volume is like I'm bringing 150%, and like I was like flabbergasted at some of the images in this book.
This is my favorite page.
Yes.
I'm going to describe what it is for the audio people, and for the people who can't see my screen. It's when Molly is being taken and he's getting knocked out, and the way they panel it is so wonderful to have the spiral of him losing consciousness, and like the way like it perfectly encaptures the exact feeling that it's going for. You've seen this in movies and TV shows all the time, and to put it in the written form, in the art form, is so cool to see it so expertly done. And like, yes, this is exactly the feeling that you're looking at. It's beautiful paneling. You're absolutely right, Ryan.
Every issue of this final volume, there's a couple splash pages that like truly blew my mind. The one that I've been going to is the one where it's Molly after she learns Kung Fu, and it is a maze of her taking out hundreds of men. And it is so beautifully drawn. And like, no, there's like, they're little tiny people. So like, there's no detail, but you clearly make out that they're purple and she's pink and she's kicking all their asses. And it's like a maze to the middle of her being the best in the world. And it's like every volume, every issue has something like truly spectacular. And again, the coloring, Jordi Belaire's coloring is insane. Like some of the facial expressions are like the best that Hayden Sherman's ever done. Like stuff like with Billy and Dust. Jason Wordie, thank you. I'm so blown away. And again, to have such beautiful poetic, like you have Billy like talking shit, but it's also incredibly beautiful when he expresses his emotions. It's a really, really great volume. And like I thought the ending was pretty good, but then we got Billy's actual ending. And then this book like made me cry, dude. Yeah. Like for real. Like I was like, if it ended before that, I was like, that's a pretty good ending for this book. But then he got like, we'll give him what he deserves. I'm like, Jesus Christ, Moreci, why did you do this to me? Like I'm balling in my bed. It's outstanding work. There's so many little details we'll get into, but like really endings are hard, like Brandon said, but like this one really nailed it, man. Like it felt complete to me.
Mm-hmm.
Sparks, what about real quickly, Sparks, you didn't say your opinion on this ending.
He hates it. No, I quite love it. I think it's one of those stories where you feel so fulfilled on each part of the journey. I think it's quite rare that we actually truly get something that feels like a whole story when it takes this long to tell. Where you feel like it's almost like from issue 1 to here, to the end of issue 25. It was all a fluid motion of the pen. I know it wasn't. We talked to Moreci. I know that's not true. But it feels like it's all just from the moment that it's written out. It was all written at once. It is all of one story, and you don't always get something that feels quite so complete, so whole and true to itself from beginning to end. I find that's when it's not a single thing in itself, when it's spread out, that tends to be quite rare.
And it helps that it's the creative team, the same creative team the entire way through. Which again, like in the big two, that never happens anymore. That rarely happens. We're lucky to get an Immortal Hulk these days. You know what I mean? So like the fact that like independent books, like not a lot of them last, 6, 12, 15 issues, but like 25 issues, that's like 2 years. Like that's over 2 years of comics. Like, but also with delays and stuff like that. Like to have a complete story from the same storytellers all the way through, it's kind of special in comics these days. Obviously, like independent stuff is different. But I read a lot of Spider-Man, so.
I think Moreci does a good job of juggling the notion of, the story is ending. In one sense that a character knows the story is ending as well, which is Billy, because Billy goes into this believing this will be the end of him, and in fact it will be. But I don't feel like you get too much of the showboating of the journey, of really wanting to grandstand the ending. If anything, I feel like I'm trying to word this correctly, but I admire that the story doesn't feel like it tries to go for too insane of a big swing with the ending.
Oh, sure.
And instead stays just as consistent to the rest of the story beforehand. Like, I don't feel like anything in here is any more extremely extravagant than the extravagant things we've had in the previous volumes. I don't feel like it went for something mind-bogglingly beyond the scale because it was the end. And threw everything in the kitchen sink. It felt like there are obviously spectacles, but I would say there are spectacles in every volume. Not every issue, but every volume. There's wonderful like moments and revelations and beautiful art and all of that. But that happened in all of them. And I don't feel like it does this thing where I think it was such a trick that Moreci had to pull off because of who the creator was to Billy, who the creator was set up to be in the story, to not make it so that when you got to him, you made him any bigger than the character said he was small. Because he's the end of the story, you get the sense that you have to make him grander.
He could have been like a million clones all over the universe. Like,
but he's just as small as they've said he is the entire time. And I think that's really tricky to deliver, because when we want satisfying endings, we like big. We just do. Like, we like big epic conclusions. We like big things like that. And I think it was really a deft hand to get to the creator at the end of the story, and the creator is no grander than the creator has ever been.
They have a sword fight.
Awesome. he's no trickier than he's been before. He's no more menacing or more revealing of how he's pulled off some XYZ. He's exactly as the creator has been the whole time, and exactly as they said what he would be the entire time. Small. And ultimately smaller than he pretends to
absolutely be. And we get all the characters from all the volumes we met. They come together. Y'all, there are so many Star Wars references in this final volume. Oh my god. Besides the fact that there's like a Trade Federation ship that has a bunch of drones that can get destroyed, or the fact that he does a Han Solo to a console, or the fact that it's on a Hoth planet.
Or we one for one the Death Star.
Yes, 100%. There's so like just references throughout this entire book, throughout the entire last 20
that's just the Death Star.
It's just the Death Star.
This final volume is so heavy in Star Wars references, and like the final battle between good and evil, and it's like, it's because like when a trope works, like if it like he's not reinventing the wheel, but it's the nicest wheel I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like it felt so good, and like just the Han Solo moment made me laugh so hard because I'm like, this conversation's boring anyway situation. I'm like, it was really great. I know Kung Fu, like. This is still a referential book, but it's still big and cosmic, but really personal. Like, it's everything I want from a comic, honestly.
It's funny because when you mentioned the Han Solo moment, it took me a little bit to remember is like, what Han Solo moment was there? It's like, oh yeah, he shot the thing because they were trying to sneak past the deflector shield, or not the deflector shield. They were trying to go through the Argonian or whatever, that Arcurian security or whatever. And it was funny. I thought it was hilarious. It's like, yes. And even when Molly says, I know Kung Fu. And I was like, and the page you mentioned earlier, honestly, it's one of my favorite pages in the entire book. That page will stick with me because, yes, there are some gorgeous pages, like you said, gorgeous splash pages. But just that scene, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the scene in Kingsman, the Freebird church scene.
Yes.
Where I'm kind of thinking, I kind of wish that, like, if Wasted Space ever, and this is like wishing upon wishing upon wishing, if it was ever turned into like maybe an adult animated show,
yes,
I want that scene with Freebird in the background, because that would be awesome with her just kicking all sorts of ass. And I'm like, yeah, that fits, that works, I love it.
I mean, one of the things that's so wonderful about Wasted Space is that it constantly like tells you one thing and does another. You know, that we've talked about how a lot of things, like, you know, play into tropes, and as Ryan said, like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You know what I said about Blue Beetle? It's like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, you just need to make a good wheel sometimes. And so like, but there's all these things, like Moreci plays with us sometimes, like the creator and Billy are going to fight. All right, well, that's clearly going to end with Billy winning. That's how these stories go. But it ends with Billy getting stabbed at the end of the fourth issue of this volume, and it's such a shock because his friends are coming to save the day, and you're like, oh, they're gonna get there, they're gonna save the day, they're gonna team up against the creator. No, by the time they get there, it's already too late. Billy is going to die, and there's no coming back for him.
And Molly's like, wait, this isn't how this is supposed to go. I'm supposed to be there. I'm supposed to stab him. What's going on here? Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
One of the things I love when stories subvert your expectations. I want to say it was an old screenwriting professor I had when I went to Mount Sac, when he said all stories have been done before. There's like 8 main versions a story can go, and then there's subversions from those main 8. And
it's the end of the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. I'm familiar.
Yeah. And I had a point. What was my point? Oh yeah, I always enjoy it when the ending you think is going to happen doesn't happen. I always love when there's like a curveball or some subtle switch or subtle change that makes it. I mean, those, like we said, endings are hard. Those type of I don't want to say twists are also hard, but it's something that you don't see coming because you have but knowing Moreci and knowing how he's written these characters throughout, I know something bad is going to happen no matter what. It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows at the end of the story. And the fact that Billy does indeed die at the end of the book, I think it's poetry, to be honest. I think it's like, yeah, that's what Billy deserves. And I feel that that's what, and his true ending is something that's like that's good. He gets to finally experience something called happiness for the first time in goodness knows how long.
And this is a dude who did a lot of damage to the universe, like a lot of damage. And like, I don't know if he stayed alive, if he would ever get over that. But he did his best, and like his journey of like trying to be better, but he's still that asshole, trying to be better, still being an asshole. In the last volume, he's still an asshole a little bit, but he's finally like, I'm ready to save myself, save everybody that I can, no matter what.
Something I really like in these issues is the very beginning where he's down on the surface and he's like, honestly, Billy, I'm waiting for you to screw this up. I'm waiting for where you're going to do it. Right. And like, it's kind of what you've come to expect because every volume this has happened with Billy is that he's like, I'm going to do better. And then he regresses. And then I'm going to do better. And then he regresses. And I really like the way that they handle Molly is in danger. And Billy's like, no, I mean it. And it's not just Molly that's motivating him. Like it's Billy. Billy has made the journey. He's made the full arc. He's here. He's for serious. And I don't think anything expresses that better than when he goes back down to the planet and he talks to the leader guy. His name is
Doy? Is that guy?
But he's the guy who he goes down and he talks to him and he said, like, he's on the Hoth planet. He's leading the group and he comes from Billy's homeworld and Billy's saying like, and he's like, if you're you got, balls showing up because you're the guy who he's like, I've carried that weight for a long time, and like I've lied to myself and blamed myself, and I've been the victim and the savior of the same story. And the thing is that, like, yeah, it's my fault, and it's all our faults, I think.
Yeah.
And it's the system's fault, and we're all responsible for allowing it to be that bad. And I think that we all need to own that a bit. And he's like, yeah, okay, cool. You actually do get it, Billy. Like he recognized in that moment. He's like, no, you've come to the right place.
The system is rigged. Half of them voted for Devilish like Yam anyway. Like, it's not just my fault. And he's like, you know what, Billy, you are right. Let's join the resistance together. I'm like, hell yeah, baby. Let's go to Hoth. I love it. Fury shows up again in her gold armor, and she's like, I came back because you guys are my friends. And I'm like,
nobody messes with my friend Billy Bane.
Yeah, and
like, that's who she's here for.
Man, you try to kill him so many times. That's crazy. I love it. And her new outfit like, looks so dope, man. I love it.
I was like, there's no way we get to the end of this and Fury doesn't come back. When's Fury coming back? And then Fury busts in.
She's a cool lady.
I really like the line. So it's in this kind of big battle sequence, and they're like, we're all fighting, and Dust is like, how's it going up there? And she's just like, things are a little hairy up here, but we've still got plenty of fighters. And the Thor guy, I forget his name now, a little hairy, clenching into your turds because the bathroom is out of order is a little hairy. This is a clusterfuck.
Yeah,
Tyrion, I think.
Incredible line.
He's like the big man. I love seeing all these characters show up again. Oh my god, like Billy and Dust, like they're heading to Hoth or whatever, and like, listen, no more hitchhikers, all right? If we're gonna do this, we're not picking up any hitchhikers. The first thing that Dust does is pick up a scorpion man who accidentally stings him because he gets nervous, and then he plays dead until Billy basically confesses his love to him. He's like, oh, I heard you say I love me. I guess I'm like, wait, you're fine with, bro. I'm like the most indestructible killbot of all time. What do you think that can kill me?
I beautiful. Love that. I thought that was so funny because the second the scorpion stabs Dust and he's trying to stab Billy, and Billy just shoots up. He gets the antidote bit, and he's like, "I'm sorry," because they like Dust essentially said, "Hey, you're my best friend. I love you. I'm going to do everything I can for you." Billy, Billy does what Billy does. He's a bit of an asshole about it. What just got me? It's just. I love it when comic book artists are able to take film jokes and implement them in their books, and it just makes it so seamless. Like when Dust does the one eye open and shuts his eye really quick until Billy says what he wants to hear. He goes, "Okay, yeah, I can drop the act now. We're fine." It's just so funny.
He's watching a YouTube video on how to dissect this monster to get the antidote. And I'm like, this is a silly ass book, man.
It's so interesting. I want to talk about the humor in a minute, but like what Ben said really struck a chord with me, because like doing a comic and having the comic, having a comic layout and all that, like you don't have the powers of an editor at your disposal to do things that an editor would draw your attention to in a movie, things like that. It's a different visual language. And what I think is so fascinating about Hayden Sherman's art, which is what I love about it so much, is that he's so good at capturing that same language that he's good about. Film and comics have a different visual language, but he's really good at capturing a film visual language within a comic book. And I think that's so cool. And I really like him as an artist because of that. That's just kind of a small talent in a sea of amazing talents that this man attributes and shows us in these books.
We've definitely talked about it before, and Wasted Space has exceptional paneling decisions, very often, and it makes it feel like it's in motion.
Mm-hmm. And it like you said, Brandon, like I'm never confused reading this book. I've read plenty of comics where where bubbles are everywhere, and I'm like, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to read. I always know what panel I'm supposed to go to, and a lot of the times, especially in this final volume, they're connected together. So like it will be an untraditional way you read it, but you're following it because it tells you like, hey, like you're not going to be confused. Just follow the guidelines, and it's like it's just really beautiful, and he makes it easy while also being like really complicated and not traditional paneling. And like I super appreciate that, because that's like man, this book looks like it was hard as hell to draw. Man, you kidding me?
Sherman has such an eye for every part of the page is useful for storytelling, and how does it best. It's like Sherman approaches each page individually for telling the part of the story that it is, or 2 pages if they go together. And that's all that it's focused on is just the motion of that page or 2 pages. And truly, like, the way they choose to put their art where tells you so much about what's happening in the story. Brandon gave the example of the beating on Billy earlier, but you could also say the same with, like, when Fury, there's a lot of green here, but when Fury first shows in, and like you follow the pieces of the panels down around the page.
They're like painted glass.
It tells you how the story moves.
Yeah.
It's special. It's unique. It's not something you never see in comics, but it is rare.
Yeah.
And certainly I think to the degree that Sherman has mastered it. I don't think other artists get to, either because they don't have the opportunity or they choose not to.
Oh, they got deadlines and they can't.
Or they have deadlines, exactly. To make so many of those kinds of decisions. Like everything that's put to page feels thoughtful.
Yeah. Everything, every volume of this book, of Waste of Space, is very funny. I love the humor in it a lot. It's very much a type of humor that works very well for me. And I do think overall, this volume is a more serious volume because of just the nature of what the story is telling. But it doesn't lose that humor. It's just a little less in this volume than in the normal, and it's still very funny. That scorpion bit that Ryan pointed out, when just like, I'm sorry, it's a reflex, it just sinks people on its own, is so funny. And like, there's the bit where they're like running away from the people on the planet, and then they shoot them and they explode, and Molly's just like, wait, why did they explode? Like, it's just so weird that they did that.
Yeah,
it's very funny. And I just always want to just compliment the humor here, because he is able to, it's not a way that is drawing attention to it being funny. It is very much just the world they inhabit is a little ridiculous, and these characters are pointed out sometimes, or they are just doofuses. It's very much within character, and it's always for character. It's always coming from a character place, or from a place where the world is just weird. And I appreciate it.
If I may, real quick, I think Ryan was trying to mention it earlier, but also I want to talk about it too. And this might not be as humorous as it's because the scene itself is actually kind of grim and dark, and also you really feel it for Billy. But if you change the voice in your head, it would probably be the most funniest shit ever. And it's a scene where Billy's shooting the slaver bots.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, wait, I thought they're robots. It's like, they are. And it's like, the one bot's like, oh, but if you read it as like a robotic monotone voice, it's like, oh God, I'm in so much pain. I'm so cold. It's like, but they're not alive. It's like, well, technically they're not the way you think.
But this is really what the scene you're talking about is actually hilarious, because like, I'm so glad you brought it up, because he's just like, because I didn't sign up for killing people. No, that's not it. On your right, you shot me. Tell my children. Tell them. It's just like, it's ridiculously funny.
I really like that scene because it is funny, but it's also deeply sad. But it's that thing where we're like in Loki, when like, oh, I lost my wife because 18 months passed by. Like, that's really sad, but it's also really funny. And like, writing that line, man, is really, really hard. And it's like, Moreci's just able to nail it basically every time. Like, it's something that's gonna be really tragic, but because just like the characters that we're dealing with, like, there's got to be levity, because like it's a type of book that this is. Like, you can be serious and funny. Like, it doesn't have to be one or the other.
On that note, like, I really do like the bit of origin story kind of that we get with Billy, how he met the creator, and also with the creator themselves.
Yeah.
As the little light, the little orb. I thought that was all done really well. In terms of humor, I agree with everything you guys were saying. And my favorite joke in this volume is when we get to the end of the story and Rex shows up. Rexplode. I have Invincible on the mind. Rex shows up and he's just like, "Did you forget about me, Kinsis?" And she looks like dead at you from the panel. She looks at the reader and is like, "No, how could I ever forget?" Because he's basically not in this volume.
Not important, but he's still there. Don't forget.
It's really funny with Rex here, because he's just, oh my God, you're right. I didn't notice. She does look at us.
She's looking straight at.
She's doing a Jim Halper from The Office. Oh yeah, absolutely.
She's like, "How can we ever forget?" It's very much a like, do you care that we forgot?
I like that they keep playing with that. And like I genuinely forgot about Rex. He's mentioned a little earlier in the book, and I was like, didn't he die? And and then he shows up at the end. I was like, oh no, I guess not.
I totally forgot. I not only forgot, but also I forgot, and then it took me a while because at first when I saw, I was like, they didn't take Billy's body and put something else in his body, did they? It's like, oh wait, no, that's a completely different character. Never mind.
Oh my god, Billy lives inside Rex.
Oh my god, that'd be
I think that Moreci also does a good job of like wanting to reference and keep the sense of like the friends we gathered along the way, all that kind of stuff in this story, but like recognizing that like characters like Rex, there's really no more story to tell, and not trying to shove them into new story to tell. Like there's still stuff to say about Syra. There's really nothing more to say. She's so
horny for Dust. Oh my god.
There's really nothing to say about Rex though.
Yeah, absolutely. And this book, while being very funny, like this entire book is very much about like fighting the system and like living in chaos and like having to like learning to like the world. It's like everything is meaningless versus like, no, you got to have hope. Like even in a dark world, there's still light, right? And that's like Molly versus Billy, and then Billy eventually finds it. They're like, oh, my friends are the light in the chaos.
Well, it's all the concept of what the creator used against Billy in the sense of like nothing matters because everything you've done in your life doesn't change any of the things that the system is doing or any of that kind of stuff, no matter what way you push it one way or another. And Molly's counterpoint to that's like, yeah, but it's bullshit because like everything that happened in my life matters to me.
Yeah.
So like that means not like that can't be possible that nothing matters when all those things matter.
I really like when they go to the planet to get like some goop from the monster planet, and it's just like a plot thing of like, yo, it's gonna be a gift for these people, and we're gonna try to get them on our side to fight the other guys. And they get to the planet and they're like, hey, we're not into it. We're actually into just keeping things how they are because we both profit whether we're the good guys or the bad guys. Because like, what does it really matter? It's the shitty system. And it's like, oh my god, everyone's awful. Everyone in this universe is awful except for like, you know, the good guys. But there's like they seem to be so small in comparison, which is why it's such a beautiful and personal book. Where at the end, like, you can win. You just got to believe and you got to love. You got to put love in your heart.
Well, it reflects society, right? Like everything is awful. Like no joke. Like it's exactly what I believe. Like they go to these people because they're the liberals. They're like specifically called out as the liberals. And it was revealed that they're just as bad, which is true. They are. And it's very much Moreci is putting a mirror to our society of yes. The systems that are put in place on both sides of the aisle are equally as bad. They're just doing it in different ways, but they both profit in the same way. And I like this kind of like, do you remember when we read Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and it was the story where this black man comes up to Green Lantern and he's like, what about me? You know, why don't you protect me? Why do you protect all the white people, but why don't you protect me? And you know, that kind of overhandedness with like politics is something that I do appreciate in comic books. And I like that it's here because like, yes, this book is exactly my worldview. What matters is what my experiences are, not and what doesn't matter are these ridiculous systems that are put in place to destroy me.
Mm-hmm. And you gotta, you know, life is horrible, but like you got family and you got friends, and you know there are things like it's hard out there, man. But like there are things to live for, and it takes Billy a long time to realize that, and like he dies for it.
I have something I would say to that, but I want Ben to jump in with what he's been trying to say.
When Sparks was talking about Molly's speech at the end of the book when she's facing down the creator about how that was essentially the thing that triggered me into like, this is the human condition thing I was talking. This is what made Wasted Space into a great sci-fi story, where like that one paragraph of dialogue, where she talked, because the whole book is very cynical. It's very everything sucks. People are terrible. You try to do a good thing, 20 bad things happen in its wake. What's the point? It's a very depressing book at times. Billy's a very depressing person, and there are times where I remember when we first started reading this, I'm pretty sure I hated Billy because of his like very cynical attitude. But that bit where Molly's talking to Creator, it's like that is the part where I'm like, this hits home. Because yes, even though bad stuff does happen, there's a lot of stuff, good stuff that happens. That's unfortunately that's life. You have to take the good with the bad. And while the bad stuff is very, very glaring and very, it's a stain on our memories. When she talks about how every second she spent with Billy, whereas even good or bad, it mattered, because the creators are like, nothing matters. You're just ones and zeros to me. You're all gonna die anyways. What does it matter? Nothing does. She's like, no, F you. Yes, it does. I spent time with this person, and I know I mean something to him. He means something to me. He means something to Dust. All these relationships that we have made along the way, they matter. They are part of us as we are part of them.
To what you're saying, Ben, like her last quote is like, it's you who doesn't have anyone. It's you who doesn't matter. And that's what makes you so afraid. And like, yeah, when bad things happen to people, like it can close them off to the world. But like, that's not, but it's hard to sometimes have an open mind, but like, that's why like science fiction is good to show a lens of the real world sometimes.
Well, one of the things I like so much about it and how Billy's arc as a character fits into it is that the systems that exist are not great, and they're not there to support you. And the world can be really, really tough to live in. And that is a reflection, just as Brandon was saying. And those things can be really shitty, and it can make you feel like those things don't matter. And it's all about like shifting perspective about what's in your life and what you're doing and what your effect is and what's affecting you. And like, it doesn't mean ignore that the world has problems, but it does mean like, don't let that become the only thing you see. So much so that you miss, people around you, or you miss the things that are of value, or things that you have that you now have or have had before and now don't have. And like the appreciation for those things still matters. And so it's like all about, and that's what Billy ultimately had to go on as a journey is very poignantly. But like, I think there's very often we've seen stories that will try and do something like this, and it's something where the character kind of gets there at the end because like that was the point.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily something that like their journey was teaching them.
Yeah, they just end up there.
But again, like talking about how this story works as a whole really, really well, Billy was learning this lesson every issue of this story.
And now that we're at the end, I do appreciate how much he fucked up throughout the entire run to get here, because these final 5 issues really feel like a culmination of like everything he's learned and everything he's willing to sacrifice with all the people that he loves. And because of it, yes, he dies, but he gets the happiest ending he could possibly have by having a god put into his brain that he's still with his wife.
And that's a wonderful and very touching thing.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't have that, Billy succeeds in proving the point of what his story was supposed to do, even if he didn't get that epilogue. Absolutely. It's really lovely. Yeah, it's very tear-jerking, and it's very sweet, and I'm glad it's there. But even if it wasn't, Billy's because that's the turn, right? That's really good because Legion steps in and has the plan and says, Molly, I need you to do this, and you're going to have to betray Billy to do it because Billy will never let this happen. But none of them anticipate Billy shoving them out of the elevator shaft to go face the creator alone.
That's right.
Nobody thought Billy was going to do that. And that's the turn, right? Like Billy, in doing that, by that point, Billy had won the arc, right? It didn't matter what came after that point.
That's true.
Billy had proven he'd gotten to the place that he wanted to be at in that moment. And everything that happened after that was just an after effect of the choice he made there.
Yeah, I love that. Alpha and Omega. I love Legion's role in this coming back around, bringing Molly into his dimension.
When he shows up and the creator is like, "Oh, you think I'm not going to be able to get out of here? I play with these mind space tunnels all the time." She's like, "It's not my mind space tunnel." He's like, "Oh fuck!
Hey, big guy, what's up?" Oh my god, he's such a cool character.
The second she just points up, I'm like, Thor Ragnarok. It's like, oh yeah, I know.
Oh,
he did it.
Surtur.
and she just points. Yeah, the Surtur moment. It was to me. I loved it. I loved, even though it was a single page, just seeing. Legion was one of those characters that at first I'm like, oh no, this guy's big and scary. But then you grow to love a lot of characters. Fury, especially like Fury, she's trying to kill Billy. You grow to love Fury. You grow to really like Legion, and seeing Legion just overshadowing Molly and her just pointing up was like, you could feel his presence. Mm-hmm. You could feel that Legion was like, I know I can't kill you, but I'm gonna wreck you. It's gonna be fun for me.
We get one of these guys showing up again, one of the weirder little guys, like from their weird reality.
Yeah,
you do. Oh, no, and then there's beating the shit out of it. I'm like, oh man, I never thought I'd see one of those, the like smaller version of Legion. That was a little fun.
Legion's last line before he starts ripping the creator apart for all eternity is, I'm taking shits that have lasted longer than your entire existence.
That's pretty good.
The creator, and again, like going back to the idea of like the creator had like bought into their own shit, right?
Yeah.
And believe their own hype. I am this god thing that can do whatever I want. And Legion's like, fool, you're nothing. Like you really are nothing. Just as Legion has learned to believe about the gods, it's like, this is nothingness, and I am only here to punish those who pretend to be these things. I think it's a wonderful like culmination for Legion's story as well.
Yeah. Oh, when Billy sees Molly again and he says he loves her, like, oh, not in a romantic way. I'm just like really going through a lot right now. And she's like, I thought that was just really good because like they're not together, but like they care about each other. It's more like a would you say it's more like a sister thing by the end, or do you think there's still romantic implications?
He says friends.
By the end, it feels more sister-like.
I won't say sister. Okay. I think they're very good friends. I think if Billy had lived, it could have been a romance again.
Okay.
I think that exists. Okay. I think that just like where they'd gotten to at this point in their story, that wasn't what it was.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say like, oh, if Billy lived, they wouldn't have ended up together.
Okay.
I fully think that was still on the table.
Okay.
I don't think it's that they stopped having romantic-esque feelings for each other. I think that it
just wasn't as focal.
Other things became more important to them about each other for this moment in time. And were things to have settled down, those romantic feelings might have come back.
I'll agree with that, sure.
So I wouldn't go full blown like, oh, you're a sister to me now.
Okay.
I think that they still have, I think the amount of pain that they show for each other over this volume especially is like, it's more than that. Like they're very tied to each other. And it could have been romantic again.
I dig that.
Because you got when Molly's taken away, which is really brutal. Obviously, when Billy's dying, when he's stabbed the first time, and then when he's dying in her arms, and she tells Legion to help save him. All very much like pointing towards that emotionality.
I can't make life. Sorry, honey. Sorry, girl.
I really like that moment when Billy gets stabbed and Dust leaps forward to Creator and I'm gonna kill you. And Creator's like, no, you're really not.
Yeah.
And sidesteps him, but I still think that's a really great emotional moment of Dust leaping forward with all that anger and fury, pardon me, for Billy being stabbed.
Sherman's facial expressions are so like they're always good, but like in this volume, man, like when people are crying, man, they're bawling, like their mouths are fully expressive. Like it is like some stunning shit sometimes.
I really like when Dust is holding Billy after he's been stabbed, and he tells him like when he thinks he's going to die right there, he tells him the Creator did not beat you.
Yes,
I think that's really great. And I love the panel where on the page where it's from Billy's perspective looking up and he's seeing the crying eyes of Dust, Fury, and Molly. And you see his hands in just like the lower foreground, like holding on to them right here in this page. And he's telling them that, you know, they've all really changed his life and they've made it better. Hold on. I was going to go back and get like what he said. Because Fury steps in and Fury said, I could give you drugs and they'll take your pain away. He's like, you guys, the three of you already have. And he said, but also still give me the drugs.
Yeah. See, like it's incredibly emotional, but still wicked funny.
Yeah.
Like that is such a hard line to pull off. And like, he nails it.
I think Dust and Billy's last goodbye, the hug and their farewell to each other is really well done.
Yeah. He's like, if I say goodbye, like I'll never see you again. He's like, if that happens, it happens, man. I love you. Like, I gotta go. That's how it is.
And they're just gonna miss each other.
Yeah. Brotherly love.
And I really like that because like, I think the other thing is like, Moreci can do whatever he wants. It's his story. And he could have taken the other way out for Billy to have come back from this.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would cheapen the emotion necessarily of these moments. Like, I still would buy that the characters believe that Billy was going to die, and these goodbyes are very touching and sorrowful and everything. And we think that Billy's not going to make it out of it. You could have had him come back around and it been a happy ending and everything at the end. And like, I wouldn't have hated it necessarily. But I think the power of these moments, just looking back at them after finishing the volume, is really, really strong, because it is this knowledge for the characters of, I'm not going to see you again, and I'm really going to miss you.
Yeah. And to your point of like his arc was finished, like I do really love that final like epilogue with Billy and May, where like it's like, oh, I said no to Devilish Yam, and he lost, and the world's going to be great, and you and I can just live forever happy. And I'm like, yo, that really got me like really hard. Yeah. It was so beautiful. And again, like without that still would have been a great book, but like just a little extra, like, Billy, I'll give you just a little bit of fake Matrix reality for you. Like, I thought it was just really sweet. If I never see any of these characters again, like I'd be happy, but like, I think it's such a fun world. Like it's a hard thing of like, do a side book with these characters later, do something, but I'm like, I don't know. It's such a beautiful ending for everybody, I think.
I feel like it would have to be such a different story.
Yeah.
Is the thing. Like, I almost don't know. I won't say Molly and Dusk couldn't show up in it, but it certainly couldn't be following them.
It could just be in the universe of Wasted Space.
Yeah. Because I think, like, the story's too full of the emotional stuff. And I think that, like, because part of it is, like, what do we do in the wake of the creator? How do we make our own choices? That kind of thing. Those stories are always best left to the imagination.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a really rewarding journey, like conclusion to its journey. And I agree with you. Like, the world is so rich and cool. Moreci's really created something wonderful. But it'd be so hard to return to a story that's focused on any of our main characters here.
Yeah. Call it garbage universe.
Yeah. It's definitely the type of story, because there have been stories where endings I do enjoy. I'll bring a more recent example. Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury. When I finished that show, and that show does have like, hey, this is like the ending, there's nothing else. There are parts of me who's like, no, I want to see more. I want to see more of what happens to our main characters. I want to see how, because there's a bit of a time skip in the very last episode. I was like, I want to see more. I want to keep going. Or when a manga that I really like ends, it's like, and there's like the epilogue is them 5 years in the future. It's like, well, I want to see after that. This, I'm good. I don't need more. I am like I said, when an ending gives you that feeling of content, it's a damn good ending.
Satisfaction.
It is nice. It's also, just as I was saying earlier, rare that a story can feel like it's gone when it's gone on this long, that it can be of all one note. It's also hard for those stories to end in that sweet spot where it didn't overstay its welcome.
Yes, yeah.
But it also didn't make you feel like I didn't get everything I needed out of it.
Yeah.
And this lands right in this smack dab bullseye of that sweet spot where it's like, you gave me everything.
Yeah,
you gave me everything.
Like I would have loved to have read this book for like 50 issues, but I could see prolonging Billy's arc, maybe like throwing in an arc that maybe like, oh, this one wasn't as necessary. Like this feels like the perfect like 25 issues is like, that's a long run, man. That's over 2 years. Like that's a lot of comics to read.
Well, and it's something I think we talked about, honestly, the last time we talked about Volume 4, or even maybe a little bit in Volume 3, where we're like, I don't know how many times we can go back to the well with Billy screwing up and having to get back on track.
Yeah.
And like it worked, right? It worked all of those times, but I know at a certain point we were like, I don't know how many times can we pull this off.
Absolutely.
At a certain point, like this won't work anymore. And I think, it was a relief that we didn't even flirt with that. Like when we get to this story, this is Billy fully on mission, going for it. There is no more regression. And I think we needed the last 5 issues to be that Billy, and not one who was doing that. And yeah, I do think, like, as much as I love this story, anything more I think would have been dragging it out.
I'm now very interested in that the audio drama version of it.
Yeah.
Like, I think like, everything gets adapted. Like this could be a great animated show. Like I wouldn't want to see it live action. Like we have Guardians of the Galaxy. Like we don't need to do that. I think this would be
it's too beautiful unless big budget movies are going to start doing lighting and coloring better.
We're past that.
I don't need to see it.
Yeah.
Unless it's going to look like Scott Pilgrim versus the World today, which it won't. Then I think we're good.
Yeah, the colors pop so hard. Like I would like an animated version of this would kill. I think it's just a very special book, and I'm so glad we got to read it.
Yeah, you could have a really artful animated show on like Adult Swim or something.
Yeah.
That would look pretty cool. I as a note, we didn't bring up this moment, but I really like when Molly's supposed to give them information about Legion, and she turns all the torture back on that guy. I thought that was really good.
Oh yes. Man, every one of these pages has like really great paneling, and it's like really unique. Excuse me, I'm just like, man, it's book with treasure.
It's a beautiful book. It really is.
Entire kaiju planet.
If you have the opportunity to pick up the omnibus that's out there, I highly encourage it. Otherwise, like grab trades. This is one that's gonna go out of stock, unfortunately, because it's just not a big enough attraction for Vault Comics that it's going to be stocked forever. Like I'm pretty sure 1 through 3 are already out of print of the regular trades. So get them while you can, folks.
Get them while they're hot.
It's a great story. If you got to get it digital, get it digital. It's worth the while. Which is how I first found it, which started this whole thing.
It's true.
I also really like, it's one of my favorite moments because I just think it's nice when characters get something like this, which is they do the whole Billy saying a bunch of things to, we alluded to this moment earlier, to Dust while Dust has been knocked out by the scorpion sting, and then him giving him shit for pretending and all that, and then at the last bottom of the page it's Billy saying, I meant what I said, and I'm glad that I said it. I don't take it back. And he's like, yeah, I know.
That's growth, baby.
Love that shit.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else?
I mean, I could say a lot more, but it's partially because I don't want to leave, because when we leave, like, it's really over. We don't have any more wasted space to talk about.
That's true. Always had
it's like a second goodbye.
We'll always have.
Okay.
You know what? Like, one last note. I do think like the very last page is really well,
it's beautiful
and thoughtfully done of the end.
I want a poster of it.
Where we get some of our heroic characters who helped get us here, even though they've already passed. With Legion holding our main heroes, sans Billy, in the middle. I think that's really lovely.
Yeah.
And I think it was right and nice too, like, because Billy gets his epilogue page, and then you get this last page with everybody else. And I thought that was a good call.
Hundo.
Yeah. They're definitely a throuple.
Yeah, 100%. Fury, Syra, and Dust.
Oh yeah,
100%.
Yo, man, I'm telling you, that Fury, that gold. Look, if they ever make action figures, like I'm kind of done buying action figures.
Dust talking to Fury, saying you're over me might be a little much. I mean, I am still the attack.
All right. So that's it. That's the end of Voice of Space. Thanks,
guys. What a wonderful journey. I love it. I'm so glad we did it. This is a great story.
It's true.
I'm grateful that it exists. I wish more people knew about it.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's the thing. Like, there's a lot, man. Just a lot of books come out. It's hard for all of them to get traction.
It is.
Again, this book's so quality. Like, I hate that we're like in this day and age where like you need an adaptation for something smaller to get big, but like this thing is good enough where I think eventually it will get adapted in some capacity, and then that book will get reprinted, and like it might not be soon, but we read it, so we here first. Take that.
All right, guys. Well, that's the Faker Book Club for Wasted Space. That's the end of one of the rotation ones. So stay tuned for another of the kind of our kind of like other book club. It's yeah. So stay tuned for the Dr. Doom book club. That's still coming soon. That's Ryan's pick. That's coming soon. And then we're doing another book club series soon. So stay tuned for that. A lot of cool stuff coming down the pipeline that you guys will see soon. Be sure to, once again, check out our website at fakenerdpodcast.com to see all the things that are coming out, the links to everything. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline from a lot of our shows, such as Fake Nerds Watch, Cinephiles, Anime Station, all sorts of things. Stay tuned for all of that. Of course, you can find us on TeePublic and Patreon, which is also linked on our website, but also linked below. Again, fakenerdpodcast.com. Linked below.
I feel like I'm giving Brandon anxiety every night. I send him an email like, "Here's what's going up tomorrow."
No, it's not. It's definitely not. I just feel bad that I don't always get it posted in time.
It's okay.
And then if Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of Victor Podcast. I'm BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter, where I also write for AtomicEthan.com sometimes. Ben, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on the internet at BenMagnet27, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, and they can also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, GoNintendo.com, and playing Mary Frankenstein in D and Dark.
Sparks?
You can find me encouraging you to read Wasted Space however you can. Go read the digital comics. Pick up the trades. You're not going to be disappointed. Get the omnibus if you really want to. It's out there. Go do it. Support this comic. Sparks Witty. Instagram, Twitter, SPARKZ Witty. I endorse this.
You can find me hoping you've read this comic, because if you're watching volume 5 of a trade, like I would assume you read this book, because like that's crazy. But if you did read it, I appreciate you at DJ Tony Snark all over the internet.
All right, guys. Once again, like this video, subscribe to this channel, rate and review us on your podcatcher of choice. Greatly appreciate it. Until next time, see us, guys. Stay fake nerds.